This is a tutorial video on how to be the most strategic trapper in Dead by Daylight. So in Dead by Daylight, there are the most two vital areas of the map, which is the Killer Shack and the main building. Now, why are these areas vital? Why is Killer Shack vital and why is main building vital? So Killer Shack is vital because it has an infinite loop. It has a pallet that when you drop it, if you are going to try to play on that pallet, like good solid 10-20 minutes are going to be wasted of your time. And by the time that time is wasted, you're not going to be able to kick gens, you're not going to be able to catch up, none of that. You just threw the game. That is why Killer Shack is vital to pretty much trap and to interrupt any loops on, especially with the pallet. Main building is another good one. Is the reason why it's vital is, again, it has interconnecting loops, which can become a god loop, or it can waste more of your time depending on the pallet or the vault that's there. But it's also a very common area for survivors to group up on one gen and just smack that gen out of the way and just get it done. It just makes it really harder for you to catch up. So the first thing you want to do is the build. The build is what's going to be helping you out more likely. So what I like to do is carry 3 general progression perks and a security perk. What is a security perk? It's a perk that ensures you're gonna get the pickup on a survivor. Survivors are gonna try to flashlight blind you, and survivors they're just gonna try to blind you or stun you in some way. The security perk I ran was Lightborn because it helped me solve their auras and it made my life a little easier. The add-ons I like to use is the Honing Stone, which will send a survivor into a dying state if they free themselves, and the Trapper Bag. This will not only buy me time, but it helps, it puts more stress on the survivors, basically. Now, we're going to talk about the 3 perks I'm using. I'm going to ignore Lightborn because everyone knows what Lightborn does. It just makes you immune to being blinded by flashlights. The 3 perks I'm using are Undone, Oppressing, and Pop Goes the Weasel. One, killer mains always say Undone is really garbage. I like to disagree with them because it's really punishing for survivors. So, how does Undone work? So you see how I have a stack of 3 on the Undone? What it does is it takes progression off that generator, depending on how many stacks I have. So, since I had a stack of 3, that 3% was gone. Now, imagine having 30. That takes 30% off the generator, and it's really kind of like, it devastates progress, and it really helps slow down the entire game. How does that pair with Oppressing? Oppressing, as you're taking 30% off of one generator, you're getting information out of 3 generators. The good part is with this is this compare really well with Pop Goes the Weasel. I'm going to get into that right now. How does Pop Goes the Weasel pair with Undone and Oppressing? Well, first off, the question you need to ask yourself is, how does this pair with Undone? Well, you know how I said it takes off 30% if you get it on your, depending on your stacks? Well, with Pop Goes the Weasel, every time you get a hook, it actually activates. And that takes off 20% off of generators, off of one generator you choose. So, when you're pairing this with Undone and Pop and Oppressing, not only are you getting the information, but you're taking over 20% of progress off that one generator, completely making the match come to a halt. Alright, so how do you strategically place your traps? Number 1, take advantage of dark spots. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me, what's a dark spot? Where are the dark spots? And most of the time, how do I know if I found a good dark spot? And how do I know if survivors are going to fall for it? Now, number 1, what's a dark spot? A dark spot is just somewhere on the map that's a little darker than the rest of the area. You'll see, like, you see these lights, and then you see the kind of like darkness in between those lights. That's what you want to take advantage of a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. So that's how you can tell there's going to be darker areas on the rest of the map than anything else. Number 2, how do I find a good dark spot? How do I know? More than likely, I should rephrase that. How do you know if you got a good dark spot? Now, here's how you know. If you cannot see that trap in front in your face and can barely see it, like this, for example, you can barely see that trap, survivors aren't going to pay attention to it, and survivors will not see it. It's literally like it's like invisible to them. They won't know. Next, how will survivors fall for it? Again, if a survivor's in chase, they're not going to think. The last thing they're going to think about is disarming your traps. They're going to try to get away from you, and they're going to try to heal. What you want to do is you just kind of want to keep in chase. Now, common killer rule is chases should not last they should not last over a minute. They should last under a minute. I like to be strict. I like to go for 30 seconds to a minute. Oftentimes, it's usually a hit and run playstyle, but it actually works a lot too. It buys you time, it drives the survivor away, it kind of scares them off a little bit. Lastly, we'll come to our last part of the tutorial video, which is manipulation. How can you manipulate survivors into falling for your traps every single time? What you want to do it is you want to act like the typical trapper. What does a typical trapper do exactly? You don't know. Well, the typical trapper will oftentimes trap pallets, vaults, that's it. They will never trap corners. They will never go into the dark spots of the map, into the darker areas of the map, and they will never trap that. They will never trap bushes. That's what you want to do. You want to start placing really well hidden traps where survivors can't see. If they can't see the trap, that's benefiting you. At the same time, you want to trap pallets, you want to trap vaults, you want that typical trapper behavior because you don't want them to catch on, hey, he's going to be trapping these hidden areas. Let's make sure we avoid that. You want them to actually be more focused on disarming the traps in the pallet or disarming the traps on the vault. What survivors won't know is that the corner is trapped. So if they tried looping it, they're cut off. Just like Killer Shack. If you put a bear trap on the corner of Killer Shack where a bush is, they're not going to see that. They're just going to run right into it. And a lot of times, survivors will not pay attention to it. Like, I've had it to where I've caught 2 survivors at once on both ends of the Killer Shack. I do hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial video, and I hope you learned something from the video. So let me know in the comments if you learned anything, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.